Helle. So thanks for having me. Oh. Good. I'm Nina. I've been working for Radiometer for 5 years now as a UX designer. My background is from the Technical University of Denmark, where I've been studying design engineering. I would like to tell you a little bit about medical devices and UX, and I'm going to talk to you about that within Radiometer. I'm going to tell you about the uses and the context and how we go about with UX. So the beauty on the left is our first medical device. It was developed in the 50s. And it actually all started with the Carlsberg Brewing Company that asked these engineers at Radiometer that were originally producing radiometers. They really wanted to know the pH value during their brewing process, because then it would get more accurate. So these really nerdy engineers, they produced a pH meter. And then in the 50s, the polio epidemic kind of flew in over Europe, and Radiometer thought that, well, maybe we can actually use this pH meter on blood samples instead. And this is where Radiometer shifted their focus towards the medical industry. So they've been on the market for a long time, and over here you see a picture from a laboratory, and most of the devices have been designed for this, because this is where they have been producing the results in hospitals in the very high-tech laboratories. So you see a line of samples standing in the front. You see somebody really taking care and being really careful about using an instrument. And these people working in the lab, their expertise is with handling blood samples. It's with handling devices and making sure that they are in the perfect state, so that they will get accurate results every time. So in Radiometer, we are really driven by quality. And up until recently, quality has been in terms of delivering fast results, delivering really accurate results, and making sure that the results that are delivered are always within the right quality. So we have these liquids up here that are ensuring, if you measure on these, you can see if the device is performing to its best. Now, what we see is that we're moving in a different directions. The market is not changing totally, but it's shifting its focus to also be on point of care. So that means that we're not longer kind of taking our devices and putting them into the laboratory. We're actually making them more compact, and we're placing them right next to the patients. So these devices up here are some of the new devices that will be placed right bedside. And the one that you see on the left will actually deliver you a patient result from a blood sample within 35 seconds. And you'll get 17 different parameters. So that's pretty crazy. And the one on the right is a sensor that you place on the skin that will monitor the oxygen level on very small neonatal babies. So this is really cool, and we're really proud of them. But we also need to remind ourselves to be a little realistic and understand who our users are. And you can see here that we have doctors and nurses, and they don't really care about our products. And this is really important to understand. They don't really care about whether they're performing correctly. They will come with a blood sample, and they will require the device to deliver results without any errors within 35 seconds. So they don't really want to stand in front of our device and play with it and do anything, having fun or anything. They just want to arrive, introduce the blood sample, and then they want to get away from it as fast as possible, because their focus is with the patients. This is where their expertise lies. So these users, they can get results in 35 seconds. Our next step will probably not be to give them a faster horse, because this is really fast. We might want to give them more parameters so they can deliver a better diagnosis, but it doesn't help to deliver results in 35 seconds if people are not able to actually operate it. If they are not able to interact with it, they're not going to get the results in 35 seconds. Good. So the main driver, besides quality in radiometer, is also perceived quality. And to be able to deliver in terms of how the user sees it, to deliver really good quality, we need to get into their world. So that's our first UX principle. And everyone in radiometer will actually learn about these different UX principles. We have personas, and we make sure that the users are at all times in the center of attention while we're developing products and services. And you've probably seen this in the bottom. It's the build, measure, learn iterative loops, and we of course also do that at radiometer. Our products are going to be at the market for maybe 15 years. We will be able to give software upgrades if we figure out that we have found a new perfect feature, but potentially our features or analyzers will actually be in the market for 15 years without getting any update. So we need to be very thorough when we deliver the first version. And to the right, you see a workshop where we are working on developing different features for an analyzer. And it's really, really important for us to get all different subject matters in the room at the same time. It's not just UX designers and usability engineers. We also have software designers. We have people from our training department. They actually know which difficulties there are with our current products. And we have requirement specialists. So the power really lies within this build, measure, learn loop and getting all different sorts of people in the room at the same time. So another really important thing is, of course, to involve users continuously. And we want to do it as much as possible and as often as possible. And this is actually from 2 weeks ago, where we were testing one of our latest features. And this is in-house. So this is people from our laboratory. It's people from the HR department, the finance department. And instead of just going full-blown, going for hospitals and laboratories, which is our end users, every time, then we also want to focus and kind of split our features in saying, is it really important that they have domain knowledge, or can we, for example, just test this in-house? So a really good example is our on-screen keyboard. I would very much like to have developed and designed a keyboard that can be used by everyone, and not only people working in the lab, and not only nurses. So this keyboard, we can actually book a meeting room, set up the device, and get some people from HR to test this. And yeah, I think just one really important thing is that no matter how often I go out and test, I get completely surprised every time. And it's not always a positive surprise. It's often that I learn something and I need to go back and change stuff. And that is really what keeps motivating us to involve the users. And I think maybe one good example was a user test we had in Japan. We placed the device and we told the person to please go and measure on this blood sample. And the person took the sample and she walked up. She placed the sample on the table and then she started kind of looking around, and I was a little afraid, like didn't I really explain the task in a nice way? But it really turns out that in Japan, there are 4 earthquakes a day, and what they found most important about the product is that once things start shaking because of an earthquake, the device is not going to fall over and hit the floor. So that was a really important thing, and you could just have gone into Bing or Google and asked problems in Japan, but you can't foresee everything, and you need to get out there to learn these things. Good. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about some of the other UX principles we have. And I think one important one, next to get into my world, is the free my mind. So we are looking at the entire user journey. These users don't really care about our devices, so we need to make sure that they are spending as little time as possible in front of the analyzer. So I come to a patient and I draw a blood sample. Now I need to go to the analyzer and I need to remember which patient I drew the sample from. If I don't remember that, I might end up switching 2 samples. That means that I introduce the sample, I get a result, and if the doctor then tries to treat another patient with that result, it can actually be fatal in worst case. So what we've done is to try to free the user's mind and take away tasks from them and take them on us. And what you see up here is our ABIL 800, where the sampler right there that the person is placing actually has a little barcode on it. So what happens is that next to the patient, you draw the blood sample, you can scan the sample, you can scan the patient's bracelet, and you can scan your own ID. So that now makes this one closely coupled to the patient, and once you go over to the analyzer, you simply place it, and it scans the barcode, and the user can actually just walk away. So there's a very, very limited risk of performing any use errors here. Yep. The other thing is make me feel confident. And I think especially here, we have actually 3 places where you can place the sampler. So the user needs to be completely confident that when I've placed the sampler, I get a feedback and I get perhaps a check mark or something that tells me you've done it correctly, and they can walk away without being in doubt. Also, when, for example, you have to maintain the analyzer, these analyzers are not perfect, so they will sometimes break down. And we have kind of taken the same approach as a printer. So if you see a problem with the printer, it will actually tell you one step at a time what you have to do. Of course, we're striving to be a little more user-friendly in our instructions than the printers, but yeah. So stepwise, only asking them one thing at a time. They can't think about a lot of things at the same time because it's not their focus. They just want to go back to the patient. The last principle I would like to tell you about is think relevance. These devices are very complex. They can do a lot of things, and we're really proud of it. Deliver fast results, 17 parameters, but really the user just wants to know when they arrive at the analyzer, is it ready? Is it broken down? Do I need to go somewhere else? And if it's ready, where can I place my sampler? So all the other things, cut them away. Remove everything you can from the UI. So really trying to make it simple. And often, the more simple the feature is, of course the user will be able to get to their patient results faster, but also it's going to be perhaps much more easy to implement. So in order to get these very complex products on the market, we of course need to find the most critical things to implement and then cut away all the other stuff. Yeah, so that is how we do at Radiometer. We want to empower the users by involving them throughout the process at all times and making sure that everyone that works within Radiometer has this mindset. And then we really want to make them feel in control throughout the interaction with the analyzer. We don't want them to be in doubt because that will really leave a poor user experience. And maybe people will do the task one more time because they were in doubt, even though they actually did it correct the first time. Yes. Thanks.
That was quick, Nina.
Do we have time for questions?
Yes, we do. We have lots of time now. It's great. Yes. Good.
So, right. My question is, how do you connect the findings you have from your testing phase to the actual product design? If you go and you find, say, we need the barcode scanner placed here, not here, is there a link, or is it just, say, a broken link between your product design department and your user experience department?
So that's a really good question. At the moment, we don't have a user experience department, so people are actually placed in the projects. So we sometimes meet across everyone that's working with the UX and usability, but I'm really working alone in my project, so I'm working with requirement engineers, software designers, and also collaborating closely with mechanical engineers and electrical engineers. So sometimes they actually come out in the user test and they are able to see with their own eyes what the user's struggling with. And then we come back and then we do a report out so that everyone is aware of what we have learned. And then we go back, and you saw the picture before where we were in this workshop, and we draw everyone into that workshop and said, this is what we found. We have an assumption that we need this barcode scanner because the users were actually making mistakes. So it's not the UXers depicting and determining what to do. It's the UXers that does the user test and the analysis, and then comes back with that as an input for a mutual workshop between all the different disciplines.
More questions?
Thanks for the talk. You said a couple of times that you want people working in the whole company to adopt these UX principles. Apart from involving them in the testing, are there any other things you are specifically doing, like hanging things on the wall or talking to them all the time? What do you do?
We do have a promotion poster talking about UX and how we want to use that in the development. And this year we're actually planning on having a half-day session where we will actually train, perhaps not everyone, but a lot of people in UX and in this lean approach and thinking this user-centric design. I think one of the most important milestones for me will be this year to get a closer collaboration with marketing, because they know a lot about our users, and I think the link between UX and marketing can become much stronger in Radiometer, probably also other companies.
I'm just wondering about the process that the first guy was asking about. So you have a product owner getting the findings, right? So this person decides what is going to be, is going to get done first. Okay.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, so we
and
want to do a
usually
lot of
it's
things.
not the usability and UX findings, right? But the the product itself, right? Or the technical part.
Yeah, so I think in the beginning of the project we have a list of features. We say we need to get these features done before we can go to market and we can reach Tollgate 5. But if we go out in a user test and we find something, we see it's really not going to fly, then of course we want to re-evaluate this prioritization. And we might think that, okay, maybe this in the bottom of the list, maybe we should not do that right now, maybe we should do that later, and then focus on the UX or the usability part. And actually the usability part, you can't really neglect that, because in order to go to market when you're in this industry, you have to perform a usability test with 15 test participants, proving that the device is safe to use, both for the patients and also the users operating it. Did that answer your question?
Sort of, but we can talk later.
Yeah, should we take a coffee break now? And be back here in about 20 minutes at 15:15. Thank you, Nina.